And I think we're recording now. Let me just check. Yes, we are. So I'm here with Russell Mortlock, and he's in Medicine Hat, Alberta. I'm in Ottawa, Ontario. I'm Bruce Firestone. Russell, say hi. And so, Russell, I'm going to record this for you. It'll download to my computer, and then I'll upload it to YouTube unlisted, and you'll have the link, and I'll have the link, just so you can have a record of it, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, no, that'll be fun. So Russell, right now, he's got a girlfriend. He and Tatum are living in the house that you can see on the screen here at, hang on, don't tell me, 851 10th Street in Medicine Hat. I guess is it a 2-bedroom upstairs?
Yes, it is. And then 2-bedroom downstairs, 1 bath each level.
2-bed down. And what do you get for the rent downstairs?
So it's $900 a month, and then it's about $150 for Wi-Fi and utilities on top of it.
Okay, so you're getting about a $1,050, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And so after, just out of interest, after you pay your mortgage and all of your expenses, your property taxes, etc., and then you collect the $1,050, how much out of pocket is it costing you and Tatum to live there?
Like I charge her like a little bit of rent, and so it would be, it's quite minuscule. It maybe cost me a couple $100 a month, if that. Yeah, about around there. So not much at all.
So if you were to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, just you and Tatum, you'd probably pay about $1,000 a month or a little bit more. And
yeah, correct.
And by owning your own house in Medicine Hat, you can live in your own home with a 1-bedroom apartment, or sorry, 2-bedroom apartment in the basement for like $200 or less.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That was
That's
the whole idea
cool.
of why.
So I don't think you can learn anything from me. You already know everything. I mean,
I don't know about that.
You're an expert. You're an expert. Oh no! And does the basement have its own entrance?
Yes, it does. It's on the side of the house there. So that's where you enter. And then the laundry room is actually in a pretty cool location. It's secluded on the side too. So.
All right, so let's go down here. And where is the entrance to the basement in the back?
On the other side. So keep going around.
So it's not in the back. It's on the side.
On the side, yep.
All right, let's see if we can see it. All right. This is awesome. So it's, oh, here it is, over here.
Yeah.
Wow. So is that the entrance to the basement, or is that the entrance to the upstairs?
So it comes into the upstairs, and it's a secluded area. So then their door to go to the basement's right there, and then the laundry room's right there. So.
And I can see you like to cut grass. You got no grass in the front at all.
No. Yeah, and so then like recently I did some upgrades to it. So I added a fence in the backyard.
Yeah.
One reason why is for after I rented, when I was doing my ads in Medicine Hat alone, about 90% of people that contact me have pets.
Absolutely. So that's pretty clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what, this garage, who does that belong to?
So that's me. So the main purpose of the garage right now, because it's in a central location in Medicine Hat, and this is kind of a long-term view. This is where I store all my extra appliances for my other rental properties. And then I have tools and things like that for my handyman. And so if anything needs to kind of get replaced, it's in a central location, Medicine Hat. They'll have keys. They can go into the garage. They can grab a refrigerator or a dryer or something like that. And
how many
I don't have to pay
rental properties do you own, Russell?
So right now in our group, it's with me and my brother. We have 6 together.
How many?
6.
6?
6 units.
Yeah, so is that 6 properties or 6 doors?
6 doors. Or sorry, 6. It'd be 5 properties, 6 doors.
So the other properties don't have a basement apartment like you have?
No, they don't. No.
All right. So the one obvious question would be, on your existing portfolio, could you add basement apartments in the other units?
No, I actually tried to go through this process with Medicine Hat, and low density houses, on some of them, you can't add basement suites to all of them. It kind of depends. There's some stipulations. So on a place, it depends on zoning here in the Hat, but in some things.
Are any of the 5 properties that you and your brother own, are any of the 5 eligible for basement apartments?
We wouldn't be able to do them in any of the other ones. No.
No, eh? That's too bad.
I know it works out perfect, especially when you're a young guy and you don't need a ton of space. It's awesome. Like you said, it costs us next to nothing.
So there is another possibility that you could consider. instead of creating legal separate suites, what you could do is you could create an in-home basement apartment that's still part of the main house. And so one of the things that we've done very successfully is we have been experimenting with something called augmented tenancies. And what that means is we rent a house to to a client that has a basement apartment, but it's not a legal separate apartment. It's part of the main house, but it has its own like little area in the basement, 1 or 2 bedrooms down there. And what we do is it's very different. It's like I said, it's called an augmented tenancy. And so let me give you an example. Let's say this building here of yours had a separate entrance to the basement, but it wasn't legally separated. It's just part of the same house. You could rent it to somebody and you would give them permission to sublet it, and you would share the revenues together. I think that is probably legal even in Medicine Hat. In Ontario, we lobbied for many years, for a couple of decades, to legalize basement apartments. So basement apartments are pretty much legal everywhere in Ontario now. And last year, the Ontario government passed a bill, Bill 108, I think, which made it not only legal to have a house with a basement apartment in, but also to have a house with a basement apartment and a coach house in the backyard, if you know what a coach house is.
Yeah, I remember from the information that you sent me.
Yeah. So what you might do is you might put in a 1-bedroom apartment in the basement of some of your properties, rent it to somebody. And so let's just take this as an example. What would you rent the upstairs apartment here at 851? What would you rent it for?
It would be, I charge exactly what 2-bedroom apartment goes in Medicine Hat right now currently. So it would be just under $1,000.
Yeah, because if you're getting $1,050 for the basement, including your tech package and your utilities, maybe for upstairs you could get a little bit more.
Yes, yeah. I was gonna charge maybe about $100 more than what for the basement.
So maybe let's make it $150 just for the heck of it. So you would say, I would come along and I'd say, well, I'd like to rent the upstairs, and you say, I'd like to rent the house, and you say, look, it's Bruce, it's $1,200 to rent the upstairs, including utilities and some internet. But here's the thing, Bruce, you would say to me, I'm giving you permission, and in fact, it is a requirement of this lease, that you sublet the basement. But here's the good news, Bruce, is let's say you sublet the basement for $1,050. We're going to split that, you and me. And I go, what? Yeah. So I'm paying you $1,200, and maybe you let me keep, I don't know, I'm making up the numbers. Let's say I get to keep 40% of the basement revenues, 50%, 30%. I don't really know the number. It's a negotiation. But let's say you say, Bruce, you can keep 40% of those revenues. So I get to put about $450 in my jeans. So now my rent is, instead of being $1,200, is only $750. But wait a second, your rent went from $1,200 to about $1,800 or $1,900 for the same house. I think that probably would be legal. Do you have a good real estate lawyer in Medicine Hat?
Yeah, currently we use my older brother's fiance as a lawyer, so that's who we use.
You're just a family guy. So that is awesome. So it's called an augmented tenancy, and I think that's something you might ask her about, whether that would pass muster. And you know, you'd certainly be compliant with the Alberta Building Code. I mean, you know, you know what that is like and how to do that. So I suspect that you could add a, you know, a basement apartment and probably use the augmented tenancy approach. And the other thing that I think will work for you and is legal, but you have to check, is you have a door between the two, the upstairs and the downstairs, like you'd have a door, but it's like an ordinary bedroom door. It just has a bedroom lock on it. So it's not, you haven't physically separated it into a separate unit, but the person downstairs does have privacy, right? And the person upstairs, because it's just like a bedroom lock, but it locks on both sides, but just an ordinary bedroom lock door, but it can lock on both sides. And so if the building inspector or the bylaw officer ever comes by, it's just part of this, it's just a single family home. And, you know, certainly in Ontario, you can do this. And I would hope in Alberta as well. So you actually could, you know, kind of duplex the units, but not really duplex it. But anyway, you could ask your, is it your older brother's fiance? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
So you should ask. Now, one other thing that I don't think you should ever sell this building, the one that we're looking at on the screen here.
Yeah.
Even if you move to Kelowna, you should keep these.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's kind of the plan, is to keep and hold anything we can that we purchase. That's the game plan right now for anything we've.
I would think so. So this thing here is really interesting because if you move away, if you move to Kelowna, this could be rented as a backyard workshop. You know that, right?
Yep. Yeah. So currently in Medicine Hat, those go from like $150 to $200. A lot of people here, just because of the wintertime with their cars, if you have a heated garage, you can get a little bit more. And a lot of people use that for car storage or just any type of storage in the wintertime. So
well, let me just show you this. This is a story I'm running a course right now called Pivot, and this is a story I told my students. I got 71 students lined up for this, or enrolled in this course I'm giving, and this is a backyard workshop that I own. It's literally just like the one that you showed me, a little bigger, I think, and it is heated, by the way. And it's so this I didn't put her real name in or her picture here, but this is a yoga instructor who came to me. She's a single mom in her 30s. She's quite a successful yoga instructor, but she makes $25 an hour, maybe some days $30 an hour teaching for other people. And so that means that she makes about $32,000 a year. So it's not a whole lot of money, you know. And when you have 2 kids, you know, it's tough. So she came to me. She wanted to rent an apartment from us, and I said to her, "I think you should look at this property that we own, where you can rent an apartment from us, you know, and you can rent the backyard workshop." And she said, "Oh, really? What would I do with it?" I said, "Well, here's what I would suggest." So she works right now. Her name's Ashley. That's not her real name. She's a single mom, like I said, with 2 kids. She makes about $25 an hour. She can only teach 3 classes a day, and she can only work 5 days a week, partly because she's a mom, but also because there's a physical limit to what you can do. And you know, as a pipe fitter, there's a limit to what you can do physically. So she can make about $31,000 or $32,000 a year. I said, however, and I won't go through all the details of it, what if you rented this apartment, and it was a 3-bedroom house with a 1-bedroom basement apartment, and we allowed her to sublet that. So it was exactly what we're talking about here, the augmented tenancy. And in this case, I let her keep $1,100 of that, and the landlord, me, got $300, because it's all part of, it wasn't a legal apartment, it's just all part of one thing. So now all of a sudden, her rent, which was $1,800, which is too much really for her, is now only about $700, okay? And then I said, oh, by the way, in addition to that, you're going to pay me another $750 a month for the workshop in the backyard. She said, oh, whoa, I can't afford that. And I said, yes, and plus on top of that, you're going to pay me a 4% percentage rent. Percentage rent is like a commercial rent. And what it is it's a percentage of her revenues. I said, you're going to set yourself up to teach yoga in your own backyard. She said, oh, that'd be awesome if I could do it. I said, why not? You teach for other people. Why not teach for yourself, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So anyway, she started doing it, and she does the same thing, 3 classes a day, but in her own backyard instead of having to go to somebody else's school. She gets an average of about 11 students a day, most of them women, but not all. And she charges $15 for each class, which lasts about an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half. So her income, which was about $31,000 or $32,000 a couple of years ago now, is over 120,000 bucks. Now that's a big difference. So that's the difference between being a wage slave and running your own business. Okay. But don't forget, from my point of view, I'm getting $1,800 for the upstairs unit. I'm getting another $300 for the basement, and I'm getting a percentage rent, which works out to about another $5,000 a year for me. So my rent is going up as the landlord, but how much work am I doing? Zero. Am I renting the basement? No, she is. If the basement guy has a problem, he doesn't come to me because I'm the landlord, but she's the sub-landlord. And I said to her, if you want to put it on Airbnb and make a little bit more money, I'll make a little bit more money, but you do all the work. And she said, great, great. And then am I teaching any yoga classes? No, but she is. So I make a little bit more money, and she makes a lot more money. And then after she'd been doing it for about a year and a half, I said, Ashley, I have another idea for you, but I didn't want to overload you. She said, what is that? I said, you can only teach 3 classes a day. You can only work 5 days a week, maybe 6 if she really pushes it. So there's a lot of time where the studio, your backyard studio, is empty. Why don't you rent it out to other ladies who want to teach classes? And so you could provide a platform for them to run their own business. She said, well, wouldn't I pay them? I said, well, no, then you're just making them wage slaves for you. So what I said is, why don't you rent the workshop when you're not, the yoga studio now, when you're not using it, to other ladies, charge them $25 an hour, which is not very much, to rent the studio, and you take 4% of their revenues. She said, could I do that? I said, sure. And so she started doing that. And then on Sundays, she doesn't run any classes. There's a local church group that gets together, and she charges a little bit of rent, but she doesn't charge a percentage rent to the church. And so she thinks last year her earnings were about $170,000 a year. So the reason I'm telling you this story is if you look at this, I'm not saying what you could do or shouldn't do with it, but with a little bit of an upgrade, you could probably do something really great with it. How big is that thing?
It's a little bit smaller than a double car garage. So it's, I believe it's about 20 by 20, around that area.
Yeah. So I just wanted you to understand the stuff that I teach in real estate is all about animation, not Disney animation, but how to increase your revenue streams, right? And the other part of what I think is going to happen, and I'll stop sharing my screen now so we can see each other a little better. The other thing that I think is going to happen, is going to come about, is that more and more people are going to want to run their own businesses. You don't want to be an employee the rest of your life. I can tell. And you're already an entrepreneur, so you're more than halfway to that side of the scale, right? And believe it or not, even before COVID-19 hit, 1.5 million Canadians, 1.5 million Canadians a year were starting their own businesses, side hustles, their own gigs, right? After COVID-19, people are going to go, damn, I am not going to work for the man anymore. I am going to work for myself. Think about Ashley going from making 31 or 32,000 a year to making over 170,000. This year will be less because she's been closed for 4 months. But last year, and hopefully we'll get back to the point where she can, earn a decent living again. But think about the change in your personal circumstances to go from 30,000 to 170,000 a year in earnings.
Oh, That's absolutely amazing.
It's incredible.
That's life changing. Yeah.
It was life changing for her, and I happen to teach two things, which is how to run your own personal business for life and how to be a successful real estate investor. Those are the only two things I know. So if you and Tatum are having relationship difficulties, I'm not qualified to help. But if you wanted some real estate investment advice or how to run a successful personal business for life, I probably know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was one of the main reasons why I reached out to you. Like, a lot of the way I run my current business is very standard, probably the same way people have been running their real estate businesses since it started. And just
Yeah.
looking at other ways to add value, and just like you said, that animation is huge. That's where you can make exponential profit just like that later.
For landlords, I coach, because I do a lot of Zoom coaching, I coach people all over, I have clients in Australia and Sweden, in Long Beach, California. I'll give you an example. In Long Beach, California, I have a really nice group of young people like yourself, maybe a little bit older than you, but not much. And they're really nice guys. And when I started coaching them, which is now a year ago, they were buying properties with cap rates of 1.1, 1.2%. You know what a cap rate is, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
That's not very good.
Yeah, I'm sure you know that stuff. But anyway, so I said to them, boys, the minimum target, the minimum is 6%. Oh, they said, that's impossible in Los Angeles. I said, look, with a 1.2% cap rate, you might as well put your money in the bank, and I said, they don't cash flow. And it's really, really, really not fun to reach into your jeans every month and have to fork out money just to own property so somebody can rent them. I said, I won't coach you to do that. I'm not going to coach people to lose money. They said, oh yeah, but we can make it up on the property appreciation. I said, yeah, property appreciation, it can be very tricky. Sometimes properties go up for sure, but sometimes they go down. I mean, Alberta's an example of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So I said, I won't coach you to do that. And they said, well, it's impossible. So I didn't get to coach them the first time I made a, coaching presentation. And then about a year later, they got fed up, with forking out money every month so people could rent your place. You're subsidizing people to rent your properties. It makes no sense to me, especially since I'm a buy and hold guy. And so they called me back and said, okay, or we want some coaching. So I said, okay, let's go out and buy some more properties with a 6% cap rate. They went, So we actually found two properties quite close to the port. Long Beach is a very big port. It's one of the biggest ports in America on the coast, right? So it's a huge, and about 5 blocks, maybe 4 blocks from the port, they found these two buildings, residential buildings, in fairly rough shape, mind you, and and it was very, very similar to the property that you and Tatum are living in the sense that it had these two properties fronting on the main street, and then in the back, these were very deep lots because they were created a long time ago. In the back, there was an alleyway. So the boys went to see the local planning people, urban planners, and their local alderman or councillor. And they asked, look, we are very close to the port. We would like to build a couple of workshops in these on the alleyway. And just because we think there'll be a demand for that, and we would like zoning approval for that, and would you consider it? And surprisingly, Long Beach said, yeah, we would absolutely. We need more of that, especially close to the port. So they built these two workshops, very similar to what we do here in Ottawa, my wife and I, with the workshop that I showed you, and rented them out. And when after the rent were collected and we had they had all of their expenses, they did two major animations. One, they had a workshop at each property, and they were fairly big. And the other thing they did was they added 2 microsuites to the house, which I'll show you in a second. And when we figured out their cap rate about a year and a half after they bought these properties, it didn't quite get to the 6%. It was about 5.5%. And over time, they'll certainly get to the 6% number, but they were pretty close, certainly a lot better than 1.1 or 1.2%. And so one of the things I wanted to show you, and I'll share my screen with you again, is another little animation that I really think highly of. Do you know what a microsuite is?
I've kind of just heard a little bit about it, almost like similar to a studio apartment.
Very similar. This microsuite, this is a microsuite here on the screen, Russell.
Yeah.
You come in here, you've got a little sleeping area here. You've got your own bathroom here. You've got a tiny, tiny little kitchen, but it works. You've got an entertainment and work area here, and then you have some access to the outside, you know, because we're so cooped up in Canada, you know, 6 months of the year, we live in a cave. So this particular microsuite is about 300 square feet.
Okay.
And this is one of my coaching clients. He and his wife, Natalie, live in a small town. And they wanted to increase their income. They're getting closer to retirement age. And they said, look, Bruce, we own this house, and, you know, we're really concerned about how we're going to, you know, do when we retire. Is there anything we can do to animate our house? And I said, I don't know. So anyway, they hired me as their coach, and I actually went out and I visited back then when you could actually go visit people. I went and visited them. And I want you to look at this. So can you see this glass wall here?
Yeah.
So that behind that is a living room, and this is a porch. So I'll take you up there. So when you go inside, where behind that glass, you see there's quite a big living room here. Can you see it has a door to the outside?
Yeah.
And that's a picture I took this direction, and then I took another picture in this direction. So they have this living room, and as I went through the house, it's quite a nice house. I said, Ken and Natalie, why do you need 2 living rooms? Oh, they said, we hardly ever use this one. I said, oh my gosh, this is a perfect microsuite. And they said, what's a microsuite? And I said, well, if you put 8 feet of drywall here, you've got a 300 square foot microsuite. All you have to do is add a micro kitchen and a bathroom, and you've got your own little beautiful self-contained microsuite. And this is me taking the picture. There's Ken. You can see it here. I just took a picture of the door. And here's the porch. So think about this. If you were on your own and you were studying, or, you know, a student or whatever, you could come here, rent this little microsuite, have your own little porch, your own entrance, your own exit, your own whatever. And even before COVID-19 hit, you know, roommates were not really a great living situation. Let's say you and I and a couple other guys were renting a house together. Roommates seem to argue a lot. You know, so you come home and you say, who drank the last of the beer? That was my beer. And then I come home and I say, damn it, who ate the last slice of pizza? And then another guy comes home and says, hey, Bruce, Russell, it's your turn to clean the bathroom. And I say, no, I did it last week, it's your turn. And then we start arguing. So every 2 or 3 months, roommates are, you know, they blow up and they get mad at each other, and they move out. So the hottest trend in real estate all across the world, not just in Canada, the United States, but in Australia, in Sweden, in the United Kingdom, you know, even in Shanghai. I've got a client in Shanghai. Even there, microsuites are really hot because, you know, people want, you know, if you go back to the microsuite that I showed you a few slides ago, you know, if this is your microsuite, if the bathroom needs to be cleaned, you know who it is, who's cleaning it. You are.
Yeah.
And if there's a beer missing from the fridge, we know that's because you drank it. Right?
Yeah.
So microsuites were really, really, really big before you know, COVID-19. And now with COVID-19, it is a huge deal, because let's say you and I were roommates with the other 2 guys I mentioned, and one of them was working in the ICU or in the emergency room, or was a paramedic. The chances of you and me getting COVID-19 are much higher.
Yeah, yeah.
Much higher. So if you have your own micro suite, you have your own private space, you have your own beer, your own pizza, your own responsibilities, your own space. If you have a girlfriend, you know, and she visits, you know, you have a little bit of privacy and so on and so forth. So I said to Ken and Natalie, you could do this. And so I'll just show you the economics of it. So in this little town, they can get anywhere, believe it or not. I mean, rents are higher than where you are, $900 to $1,300 for a micro suite. And then maybe you get $975 and you get something, a little bit for tech package and a little bit more for electricity. So maybe, you know, Ken and Natalie in this little town can get about $1,100 or $1,200 a month, okay?
Yep.
That's about $14,000 a year from the micro suite. And then about 34% of all residential rents go out the window for operating costs, you know, OPEX. So property taxes, utilities, cleaning, maintenance, repairs, vacancies, make-ready costs, everything except your mortgage, okay?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so 34% go out the window. So they're probably going to be left with a net operating income of about $9,400. And before they built this, I told them that I built many of these micro suites. I said my costs average about $40,000. Okay, by the time I build the necessary infrastructure and pay all the fees, you know, I've been spending about $40,000, and I furnish them too. You know, about 40 grand. So if you can get $9,385 of net operating
Yeah.
income, you have a cap rate of around 23.5%.
Yep.
It's not the 6% that I targeted in LA and elsewhere. It's 23.5%. After Ken finished it, his micro suite, he told me his total costs for doing it was 16,000 bucks.
Crazy.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, because he can do a lot of the work himself.
Okay.
You know, like you have the skills to do it too. So I didn't put that in the slide deck because if I show you're making $9,300 of net operating income on 16,000, you have a cap rate of like, what is it, 50 or 60%.
Yeah.
You know, it's so high that it just doesn't look believable. And that $16,000 is really kind of a phony number because Ken doesn't put in any of his own hours in there, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
correct.
if he put in, you know, 500, I don't know, 500 hours or 300 hours at, you know, at $80 an hour, that's another 25,000 bucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
anyway, for him, in terms of his actual out-of-pocket costs, it was ridiculous what he was making, and he's pretty happy right now. The other thing I wanted to say is this: in order, again, not to run afoul of Medicine Hat's zoning bylaws, and also this little town, Rockland. What he did was he drywalled this and he put in, you know, he drywalled it. He's fire separated. It meets the Ontario Building Code, and he has a solid core door here as well, which gives him the fire separation that he needs. But there is a door between the house and the micro suite that makes it part of the main house. So it's
Yep.
not considered its own apartment, if you a separate apartment, because in his case, he already has a one-bedroom apartment in the basement. He wouldn't be allowed to have two.
Yes.
Okay, so I said you have to comply with the building code, and you have to meet, of course, the zoning bylaw. But there's nothing that says, let's say you were my age and you had, you know, a daughter coming back to live with you. She could live in that micro suite independent of you, but still have access to the house.
Yes, exactly.
And then, of course, once he has had his occupancy permit, he put doors that have the double lock on it. Okay, just the ordinary bedroom locks, but he does it is so his tenants are able to have privacy. Do you understand that?
Yes. Yeah. No, I think
But
these are really good for
yeah,
sure, especially like people who are out of college, just like you said, sick of maybe living with roommates throughout college. They want their own space. They want something
right.
that's going to be affordable for them.
But let me tell you something else that Natalie is thinking of doing this year or next year when she retires. She's thinking about, I really want you to pay attention to this. She's thinking about going back and getting her PSW certificate. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
Personal support worker.
Okay.
A personal support worker certificate is it's not, you have to study for it, but it's not, it's not like you have to go to university for 4 years, right? How long did it take you to become a licensed pipe fitter?
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. I think you can get your PSW certificate in 6 months, I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's probably something like that. And it's not too hard, it's not too expensive. And it allows you to take care of people who have been injured or elderly people. So what Natalie's thinking about doing next year when she retires is she'll go and get her PSW. Now, she could take an elder in that microsuite. What does a senior citizen pay to stay in a retirement residence in Medicine Hat?
Oh, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but I know it's quite expensive.
Well, how expensive? Just I want you to guess.
I would say it would be anywhere with, if it's all inclusive, like with their meals and everything, it'd probably be close to $2,000.
Yeah, I would think 2,000, maybe even $2,500 in Medicine Hat. In Ottawa, are you sitting down? It's between $3,500 and $6,500 a month. And in Rockland, it's about $3,500 a month. So instead of getting maybe, $1,000 or $1,200 a month for her microsuite, she can take in a senior, right? And she can, and she'll provide 2 meals a day, and that's not hard to do. I mean, Natalie's certainly capable of doing that. And she could probably charge them $2,500 to $3,000 a month. And I have to tell you, as a senior myself, I'm 68. If I had to choose between living in this microsuite and having a nice woman like Natalie take care of me, or living in one of those god-awful 10-story retirement residences where people are dying like flies because of COVID-19, I'm choosing this. Think about how much better your lifestyle is here. You have a nice little porch, you have your own entrance, you have your own parking space, you can come and go as you please. If you need some help, there's somebody living in the house with you that can do that. Now, all of a sudden, what is what is Natalie and Ken, what are Natalie and Ken making from that microsuite? It's ridiculous. So if I showed a cap rate on that, it would be like you and me buying a $300,000 house in Medicine Hat and being able to rent it out for $400,000 a year. If you find any of those, let me know, okay?
Yeah, no.
And I wanted to show you something else. UBC, the University of British Columbia, is building microsuites that are not 300 square feet or 200 square feet. They're so small they call them nano microsuites, and nano is very small. And these are 145 square feet. So they've got a little micro kitchen here. They've got a desk that turns into a bed, and a bed that turns into a desk, if you can sort of see that.
Yeah.
So this folds down, it's a bed. This folds up, it's a desk. They've got a decent bathroom, and here's the floor plan. You come in here, get your bathroom, your little closet, your kitchenette, a little storage, your bed that turns into a desk, your desk turns into 145 square feet. So they can be very small. So in terms of what you can do with your existing portfolio, I'll bet you'll find some buildings where you have a bedroom that you could turn into its own little microsuite. You could do that too. I mean, you have to look for it and see if it makes sense. But I have a lot of clients doing this. And we even have some basement renovations. Instead of putting a 2-bedroom apartment in the basement of your house, we have clients who are putting in 2 microsuites. So you go down a stair, and on one side is one microsuite, and the other side is the other microsuite. So instead of having roommates, you have these beautiful little studio apartments, but they're independent. And again, to make it comply with the zoning bylaws, you just have ordinary bedroom locks, right?
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to, like if you and Tatum had children running around and you wanted to have a little private time, you might lock the bedroom door, right? I mean, that's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Right? So there are lots of things you might consider doing to animate your portfolio. And let's just change the subject for a minute. So you're going to become a realtor, and as a realtor, I have to tell you, this was just me talking. I am not really keen on listing and selling houses. The idea of Russell going door to door, knock, knock, who's there? Hi, I'm Russell Mortlock. I live in the neighborhood. If you ever think about selling, here's my business card.
Yeah.
I don't think that would suit you. Probably, well, it certainly wouldn't suit me. So what I do and what I teach people to do is to become what I call investment realtors. And so I'll just give you an example of that. If somebody like Ken and Natalie, or you for that matter, and Tatum were to call me up and say, listen, I'd like to list my house at 851 10th Street Southeast Medicine Hat, and would you come and make a presentation as a realtor? Okay, I'll show up, or I'll do it on Zoom now. And the first question I'll ask you is, well, why are you selling it? And you say, well, we have a growing family. We need a bigger place. Okay, fine. Why not keep it? And people will often say to me, man, this is the worst realtor presentation I have ever heard. Don't you want the listing? And I go, not really. And they say, well, this really is the worst presentation of any realtor. No, I said, what I think you should do is you should keep it. I would ask, so maybe it's worth $300,000, and maybe they've paid the mortgage down to $100,000, and they have a little bit of equity, So I would say, well, there is another thing you should think about, and if you want to sell it, fine. But if you want to keep it, you probably could keep it and rent it out. And they say, really? Yeah. Why don't we go and do a mortgage and a refinance? And you can, if it's a $300,000 house, maybe you could put a mortgage on of 80% loan to value, you could get $240,000, and you could take out $140,000 in tax-free cash. And you'd be amazed at how many people say, oh, no, I'd have to pay income tax on that. No, it's financing. If I lend you $1,000, if I'm a lender and I lend you $1,000, that's not income. You got to pay it back. And banks have a nasty habit, Russell, of wanting to get paid back. So, so I say, no, it's income tax free. If you don't believe me, call your accountant or your tax attorney. And I said, let's take that $140,000 in tax free, go out and buy a bigger house because you and Tatum have a growing family, and keep this little gem, rent it out. And when you're an old man, your exit strategy is simple. Your exit strategy is to die. And I actually say that. And people go, what? What kind of an exit strategy is that? Well, I said, give it to your kids. And they say, well, after they think about it a little bit, they go, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's neat. And I said, here's the cool thing. I want to help you buy your next property. And they say, really? Yeah. And I said, here's the nice thing. You don't have to pay me a cent for any of this advice. Nothing. Because as a buyer, as a buyer realtor, commissions are almost always paid by the seller. You know that, right?
Yep.
So if I were making this pitch to you and Tatum, I would say, listen, you don't have to pay Century 21 where I work any money at all. It's all free to you. I'll help you buy the big house that you want. And I'll get paid a commission, or Century 21 will get paid a commission, which is great. And I'll get some of that, which is terrific, but you don't pay me anything. And they go, wow, this is awesome. And then what happens is they become your clients for life. And so instead of being a realtor who just wants the listing, sell it as fast as he or she can, and then adios, motherfucker. Excuse my language, adios. They go, Russell as an agent and Bruce as an agent, they really care about me. And they're trying to help me understand how to take care of myself and my family for 3 generations. And what will happen over time, at least it has for me and for many of the people I've taught, is that you end up with clients. I have, thousands of clients now, who, whenever they're going to buy a property, come to me in my group. And they wouldn't think about buying it on their own. And so we do a tremendous amount of buyer representation. But having said that, if I have a few rich dudes who come to me and say, hey, listen, Bruce, I'd like to sell my mansion, and I'm selling it, that's it. And we'll take those listings. I mean, we won't say no. Okay, because as a realtor, you're not the boss, you're just trying to help people. So if at the end of that whole story I just gave you, they said, no, I still want to sell it and I want to list it, then we'll say, sure, of course, we'll list it and sell it for you. We're good at that too, but we'd prefer not to. And I think about 80% of the time, maybe even 90% of the time, I'm able to convince people to hold on to their properties. And I do tell them that by the time you're, 60 or 50 or 68 like me, let's say, a young person like you could own 100 properties easily. And let's say they're each worth, I'm just making up numbers, $500,000. It means you have a $50 million portfolio. And I said, when you're at the other end of your life, when you're 68 or 78, and I have quite a few clients who are my age and older, they always seem to get the advice from their stupid accountants, and financial planners: sell your portfolio, right, and turn it into cash. And I go, how stupid is that? I said, let's say you and your brother had 100 properties, and you're 25 now, so 20 years from now, so you might have more, but let's say at 45, you and your brother have 100 properties, and you've paid off most of the mortgages, and so you have a $50 million portfolio. If you and your brother need some money, you could put a $5 million mortgage on those properties. Loan to value is 10%. It's easy. You can take out $2.5 million tax-free. Your brother could take out $2.5 million tax-free, and you can just go and party for the next 5 years, right? And
Yeah.
while you're partying, what's your brother's first name?
Nathan.
While you and Nathan are partying for the next 5 years, and by the way, you didn't pay any income tax, the nice thing is all your tenants are paying off your mortgages for you. So 5 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now, if you've run through the money, you can do it again. And so I have clients who are, in their 40s and some in their 50s and some older, who will never pay income tax again, ever. So it's a fantastic model, and it requires a little bit of discipline. But as a realtor, when I explain those circumstances to people, I get a lot of clients that way. And if clients don't like it, that's fine. I mean, if I make 10 presentations, I don't get 10 out of 10. I don't, but I get a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a great paradigm shift just on the regular, how everyone thinks, hey, like getting listings and getting people to do that is the cream of the crop of being a realtor, where just like you said, it's a different area where you can get in and get repeated customers. You teach them how to be real estate investors. Hey, they may start buying 20, 10 properties from you over the next.
I have one when I started doing this coaching thing after I retired from the University of Ottawa, one of my first coaching clients was a very nice dentist, and he comes to see me, and he wanted he likes real estate, and he came to see me, amazing guy, and he said, he would like to invest in real estate. Great, I'm a real estate investment coach, and I'm a realtor, and I think I could probably help you. So I asked him the question. This is one you will ask. Excuse me. I asked him the question, when you retire, how much real retirement income do you want from your real estate holdings? And he said $900,000. So he was buying a bunch of single family homes, and we were duplexing them, right? So he would buy a single family home and add a basement apartment or a side yard apartment. And he could get net operating income after his mortgages were retired of about $30,000 a year. So it's very easy to figure out. You want $900,000 a year in income. You're getting $30,000 for every property. You need 30 of them. And once I went through that with him, he said, "Oh, Bruce, you didn't understand me." I said, "Oh, sorry." He was like my first coaching client, I think, or one of the first. And he said, "I want $900,000 a month." Oh, okay. He's pretty ambitious. He has an income, by the way. He has 3 dental practices. He has an income of $3 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, his numbers were different. So I said, well, that's easy. It's about 300 properties. So over the next 5.5 years, 2 of my realtors, 2 of my buyer reps, did nothing but work for the doctor. That they were doing 8 or 9 acquisitions a month for 5.5 years. You know, and to get 8 or 9 properties, you probably have to make 12, 13, 14, 15 offers, maybe more. So they were pretty busy, and they made lots of money, and so did I, by the way, because, you know, they do all the work and I get 50% of the commissions, right? You know, I do a little bit of work, but not much. They do most of it. So for the next 5.5 years, he bought 307 properties through us. And when he got to 307, I called him and I said, John, you got to stop buying. And he said, what do you mean? I like it. I said, no, we had a plan. And the plan is 300. You've gone past that. He said, well, you're a realtor. Don't you want me to buy more? I said, well, look, the guys who've been working with you for 5.5 years certainly want you to buy more, but I'm your coach. And one of the things I've learned, Russell, is if you always put your clients first, you'll always have clients. And I said, you have to stop. And it said, you want to retire at age 60. He was 49. So I said, stop buying. That's it. You're done. And I said, the other thing I want you to do is I want you to change all of your amortization periods to 11 years. So that by the time you're 60, every mortgage is paid off. And he has the cash flow to support that, okay? You know, and again, runs counter to what every realtor and every banker, every lender, every financial planner, every accountant, every lawyer tells you, oh, you should have a 30-year amortization period, you know, build your cash flow. That is total BS. You know, I have 5 kids. They're all your age or about your age. And I've helped them, each of them buy a house. And we squeeze the amortization period down as much as we can, increase the payments as much as we can, as long as the cash flow is there, so that these mortgages can get paid off. And, you know, I've got a 26-year-old daughter who has a property similar to yours. And she has I think a 17-year amortization period, which I would have made it even less, but, you know, the cash flow was touch and go at 15, so we left it at 17. But she's 26. By the time she's 43, which is not old, that house will be fully paid for. And so I said, you know, let's tighten up these amortization periods, because amortization is your best friend. And all these other bozos, in my opinion, sorry about saying, but all these other bozos will tell you, listen, Russell, you and Tatum can save up your money. You can make these payments once a year. You can pay it down every year. You don't have, leave it at a 30-year amortization. Do you know anybody who makes those lump sum payments? So let's say you and Tatum saved up an extra $15,000 that year, you know, to pay down your mortgage. And then she says, you know, I'd really like to go to Cuba. And you say, you know, I really want the new Mustang. And she says, you know, I need a new iPhone or Samsung phone. And you know, that $15,000 never gets put on the mortgage. It goes into stuff. And all of that stuff ends up in a landfill site or in the history books. And so, you know, if I tell people, look, you have to pay this much every month, they're pretty good at that. But if I tell them to save up their money for a year and then pay down the mortgage, almost no one does that. So the advice that the financial planning industry is giving clients, you know, most of the people that you're going to run into who have mutual funds and RSPs and tax-free savings accounts and stocks and bonds, most of them are horrible. And if you can make 23 or 24% on a microsuite, you know, I have an NHL pension from my NHL days, right? And it's run by, you know, friends of Gary Bettman, I think out of Bermuda. And they may know something about drinking rum and smoking cigars, but they know nothing about running a pension fund. And if I had taken the money that I put into the NHL pension fund, which is a pretty big fund, and I'd put it in my mattress 30 years ago, it would be the same value as my NHL pension is today. It went down 27% between 2008 and 2010, and the last 6 months is, you know, the stock market, at least the stocks that they're invested in, cratered. It went down another 20 or 25%. So it went up a little bit, and then went way down. Then went up a little bit, went way. So if you had just taken that money and just put it in your sock, it would have done as well as the NHL pension. And a lot of people have the same experience, Russell. So when you are a realtor and you talk, and we've got this recorded, so you're going to have a recording. You can watch it again if you want to. I think you can get a lot of lifetime clients with the techniques that I teach.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. And I think anyone moving forward, that's exactly what you want, especially being young early on. If you can go against the grain and maybe sacrifice a little bit of that initial payment
I
for
don't really
long
think you'll
term.
sacrifice much at all. I really don't think so because, I mean, I don't know how Medicine Hat, but there are 3,000 realtors in Ottawa. They're all knocking on doors. Hey, listen, with all due respect, in where I live here in Arlington Woods, there are a couple of young female realtors who are like incredibly attractive young women, in their 20s. And if a beautiful young woman comes knocking on Russell's door and says, hey, listen, if you ever think about listing, check me out. And some 68-year-old like me comes, knocks on the door and says, hey, if you ever think about listing, list with me. You're not going to list with Bruce. You're going to list with, they're very nice young women, by the way. I know them both. And, but there's no way that, even as a young man, there are lots of attractive females in this business. They're going to run you circles around you, in my opinion, just because they're women. And guess what? Women talk to other women. Women tend to trust other women for obvious reasons. A lot of men are idiots. So I don't think you'll make less money. I think you'll make more, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely a good note for sure, and something that you 100% have to use. Just like you said, always have your client's best intentions in mind, and you'll definitely prevail.
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking about, and I'm pretty sure you should do it, is I recorded a 6-month course called the Ninja Real Estate Investment Course. It
Mm-hmm.
teaches you how to be kind of like a coach realtor as opposed to like a listing realtor.
Yeah.
And it's long. It's 6 months, and I think I had 8 or 10 students who were guinea pigs, but it's all recorded. It's all on YouTube. I think you should, you're a very bright guy. I figured that out. I think you should take that course. It's not, it doesn't cost very much, but I think somebody like you would really benefit from it. There's lots of assignments, and there's lots of reading. There's lots of lectures you have to go through, but I think it would really help you become a better real estate investor and a much better realtor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'll have to check it out.
Well, I'll send you the first 2 or 3 webinars, which you can look at, see if it's interesting to you.
Yeah, please do.
And before COVID-19 hit, I charged everybody $1,500 plus HST to take the course. But when COVID-19 really hurt Canada terribly, I reduced it to $850. So if you wanted to take it, I think you should. It will take you about 6 months. And at the end of the course, there is an exam. You don't have to do the exam, but I think you should do the exam. There's an actual exam that you should do. I stupidvise it. And as long as you get 75% or more, you actually get a little certificate from me, which makes you, eligible to say that you're a Firestone Institute real estate investment co-coach and Ninja Real Estate Investor. And I really think you should do it. And maybe your brother too.
Yeah, no, we'll have to.
I'll send you that. I'll send you that. And I don't know you very well, but I definitely, if you took the course, you get access to me, which it might help you. And email and texting, I'll help you and support you. And I think you and I should probably find ways to work together, because I don't know why. I think that would probably work well.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's crazy what you can learn. Obviously, you have just what you can download from your experience. Like, you've done this for a period of time. You just kind of soak it up as a sponge, and it's.
Well, I think I could get you to, you and your brother, I could probably get you to 50 million or 100 million. You're going to get there anyway, but I'll get you there faster.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like what we're going through right now is that exponential growth phase and
Yeah.
doing that. But one thing that I've done in the past is like not kind of been have so many things on the go at once, I guess you could say. So I'm minoring and everything. So right now, like what I said is like, hey, get your license first, and then you can look at another thing. So
I think that's
like
right.
once I get my
I
license, I will for
I
sure.
would really want you to think about it. I will send you the 2 or
Mm-hmm.
3 webinars, just the precursors to the course.
Yeah.
And I'd like to keep in touch, but I would ask you, and by the way, if you wanted to add, I think I allow a +1. So if you wanted to add your brother to the course, I would be okay with that. Not 10 other people, but I would be okay with that. So you'd have to, if your brother was doing it too, he'd have to, presumably he'd pay half of it, you'd pay half of it.
Yeah, no, that's something we'll definitely like. I'm always about continuing studies. That's
Yeah, but this would be different because if I set you up as a real estate investment, and your brother too, co-coach, then I would expect that over the next, decade, which is when you're at my age, that's about all you can think about. I could see you guys really doing some significant damage. There are a lot of other models, business models in real estate that you would not be aware of. And this course I don't want to oversell it, but this course will show you things that maybe you would never learn on your own.
Yeah, and that was the whole plan of reaching out just to.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did, Russell. I really do. I like Westerners. I don't know, they're just nicer people, I think, than Easterners.
Yeah, I definitely, like you said, like I put a lot of time into researching, but just having a simple conversation with you, like I learned 10 things instead of me reading a book for a couple of days. I can do that.
There's a Japanese saying, rather than 1,000 days, of self-study, one day with a good teacher.
Yeah. And that's exactly what
I think there's a lot of truth to that. Certainly most of us learn quicker. I self-taught, myself in the early days of the internet, how to do HTML and how to build websites.
Okay.
But, that was a long time ago. But, I'm an engineer. I can learn that stuff. But I had about an hour of instruction from somebody who was an HTML coder. And this was in the late 80s, early 90s, so the internet was just barely underway. And that hour, maybe it was an hour and 15 minutes that she spent with me, was extraordinary. It shortened my learning curve by months. 1 hour. I was blown away. And, I didn't pay her very much for her hour and a half, whatever it was. I don't remember how much she charged me for it, but it wasn't very much. But just a few basics. And from that, I could build everything else because, HTML did not come naturally to me. Even though I've done assembler and other coding languages back in the day, HTML was different. And hypertexting was really a novel, amazing invention. We all take it for granted. You go to the internet, you click here, but back then hyperlinking and this kind of stuff was actually quite a new way of thinking about things. But once she had showed me just a few basics, oh, I get it. And I was able then to build my own websites. I don't do that anymore, but I did that for almost 20 years and really enjoyed it. And now the coding is so much better that other people do it for me. But I do think that you're right, that an hour of instruction from somebody who really knows what he's doing or she's doing can make a big difference.
Yeah, no, and then hopefully like later on too, like after a couple of years, we could help assist you in producing new material and things like that.
Well, there's some things that I would like to talk to you about. There's a new form of report that I'm working on called a property animation and analysis report that I think will become as important or even more important than a building inspection on every new build. And in this course, I'll show you how to build, if you take it, property animation and analysis reports. And that is a fantastic wedge product for you as a young realtor.
Yeah.
Because do you know who Robert Kiyosaki is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. So Robert says that your principal residence is not an asset, it's a liability. and this beautiful property that you own is your principal residence, but it's not a liability, it's an asset. Why is it an asset? Because you have already animated. And so imagine if, and this is what property animation and analysis reports do, what if every single person, or most of them, who are buying a new house, even if it's just their own principal residence, were to learn just some of the basics that we've talked about today, like, hey, listen, you're buying this property at 851 10th Street Southeast, Medicine Hat. What if you rented out the basement apartment? What if you rented out the workshop? What if you did this, this, and this? Your principal residence would no longer be a liability. It would be an asset. And people go, oh, that's really interesting. I could do what Russell and Tatum have done, which is live in my own house for $200 a month. I'm sold. So I think, you know, how when you're buying a house, you do a building inspection, a home inspection, you apply for a mortgage if you need one. Most of us do. And some other things that you do. You might check the zoning. You might get a zoning compliance report. I mean, there's things that you do. But the PAN report, PAAN, Property Animation and Analysis Report, PAN report, that I think, I charge for that. The people I have coached charge $500 to do it, similar to what a building inspector. But can you imagine if you had a building inspection report for $500 or whatever it costs in Medicine Hat for your property, and then you had somebody like me or you, when you're trained to do it, do a PAN report, and you all of a sudden, the building inspection report in most cases tells you, hey, your drain pipe is falling off, and your sump pump looks like it's at the end of its life. I mean, a few things like that. Those are useful things to have. But learning how to live in your own house for $200 a month instead of a lot more, maybe that's even more important.
Yeah.
So I think what you could learn is to do the PAN reports, and you could just offer that. Hey, anybody wants a PAN report? I don't know what the market would be in Medicine Hat. It might be $300 for the report as opposed to $500. But in Kelowna, it'll certainly be $500.
Yeah.
So I think you could do a lot. You could help me in a lot of things, because I would like to make, for example, that PAN report just a standard thing, an offering by realtors. Realtors need to do more than just, hey, knock on doors. If you're thinking about selling your house, remember me. I think we have to do more. Otherwise, realtors will just disappear, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's interesting too. Like, and it adds value to someone. That's what they're ultimately looking for.
Yeah. So write that down. PAN, PAAN, PAN report. I would like help. I would like at least one realtor in every town across Canada, the United States, maybe around the world.
Yeah.
At least one realtor, and certainly if you go to Kelowna, it'll be even more important there, because houses are multiples more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a lot of people there, just to afford housing, do have suited homes, because, like
Exactly.
you said,
But there's all kinds of animation strategies that we haven't had time to. I have to leave it here, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I have somebody else I'm doing coaching, in another, at the bottom of the hour, so 12 minutes. But I did want to say one thing about, you asked me what did I learn about most from the NHL?
Yeah.
From my days with the National Hockey League. I learned how important controlling costs can be. When we first started, with the Sens in 1992, our payroll was 6.5 million Canadian dollars for the big team and the little team. So our American Hockey League affiliate and the National League team, our payroll was $6.5 million. By the early 2000s, it was 84 million.
Yeah.
And it would be like you running a pipe fitting company, and you paying your payroll $6.5 million this year, and 10 years from now, or whatever, 12 years from now, it's 84 million. Same number of employees, same productivity. There's still one goal is just one goal. One goal didn't become 10. And so our cost went from 6.5 million to 84 million, and the team went bankrupt. And that's why I'm talking to you, because I'm not involved with the league anymore. From the mid 2000s on, the Sens went. It's public knowledge. The Sens went broke. We could not sustain that. So as much as I mean, I was able to drive the revenues way up. When your costs are going up exponentially like that, there's no way to sustain that. So that's the biggest lesson I learned.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And that's kind of like how life is, I guess. You have those up and downs, and you learn from it. And
Yeah, although the reason I got into this coaching thing was I wanted to help people, young people, and some not so young people. It's better if your career does this as
yeah,
opposed to doing this like that. And my career did come back, but I had a fantastic run, and it went down like this. So what I want to do with people is I prefer that path, and that's kind of what I've dedicated myself to, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my career.
Oh no, that's awesome. People
So
appreciate that.
tomorrow, I won't do it today because I've got to get on another call here in a few minutes, but tomorrow I'll send you the first webinars. Share them with Nathan.
Yep.
And if you want to, you can share them with Tatum too. If she wants to look at them, that's fine, if she's interested. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a copy of Don't Back Down.
Okay, perfect. That's your one novel.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, you wrote that book, right? Is that
Yeah. So what happened was, Nathan is your brother. So what happened was the Sens asked me to write the story of the founding of the Ottawa Senators for the 25th anniversary of the team. So a couple of years ago now. And so I wrote the book. It's called Don't Back Down. It has 4 themes in it. One is obviously the story of the founding of the Ottawa Senators. The second theme is there's a lot of inside stories about the National League.
Yeah.
And not just in the 90s, all the way to close to the current date. So, I dish dirt on the NHL. And the third theme is there's quite a bit of real estate in, because there was, we built a building and we did a lot of development around the building. So there's a lot of real estate in it. And the fourth theme is it's my personal story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people, tens of thousands of people bought the book, and they seem to like it. And my wife said to me, "Don't put in, your own story. Just talk about the league and the Sens and real estate." And I said, "No, I'm going to tell my own story too." And people seem to really like it, and it's been optioned for a movie, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if the same guys who do Letterkenny, if you know Letterkenny.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys, they seem to like the story. So if you want a copy, I'll send it to you. You put it
Yes,
on your
please.
tablet and read it.
Yeah.
I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Please do.
All right. And tomorrow I'll also send you the YouTube link, so you can, if you want to watch this again, or you want your brother to watch it, he can. Okay?
They will do. Yeah. And if we don't sign up right now, that's just because we're in the process of getting all our realtor things done.
You do whatever you want,
Yeah.
but I'd like to hear from you again, Russell. And if you take the course now or you take it in 6 months, I don't care. That's entirely up to you. All right?
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.